the war on personal automobiles, and it is a war on the individuals, and I'll explain why. So you look all the way back to when Henry Ford was envisioning the Model T, and he said, I'll build a motor car for the great multitude. It'll be large enough for the family, but small enough for the individual to run and care for. It'll be constructed of the best materials by the best men to be hired, after the simplest designs that modern engineering can devise. But it'll be so low in price that no man making a good salary will be unable to own one and enjoy with his family the blessing of hours of pleasure in God's great open spaces. Now, he followed up on that, and when the Model T was released, it changed the world. Personal automobiles were no longer a novelty or a luxury for the wealthy. Middle-income families could now travel independently of public transit, trains, or with a horse and wagon. Workers who had been confined to employment options within walking distance or perhaps public transit reach, they could suddenly seek employment elsewhere, should they choose to. So commuters were created and they had more options than ever. Consumers were empowered as well. Families with personal automobiles could now comparison shop with more distant retailers. Local businesses, including the old company store, no longer held small consumer bases captive, and they had to compete and earn business of consumers that they had previously taken for granted. And then, of course, rural citizens. They could now reach neighboring communities for consumer goods or supplemental employment if need be. Traveling salesmen, they broadened their ranges, and the earliest incarnation of Amazon Prime was created as home delivery of goods expanded. Intercity or even interstate migration became a reality for a lot of people who had felt trapped prior in their residences. People could move to where the work was in ways they never imagined only a few years prior. Now, unions will never like to admit it, but the personal automobile did as much to empower workers than their labor organizations ever had. While the right to strike held employers accountable, the ability to find work elsewhere did the same. Socially, people's worlds shrunk as they were able to easily visit with friends and family members regularly, even if they were miles away. Horizons for people were broadened. The road trip was created. Families traveled across the nation, and things like the Highway Route 66, it became legendary. A whole new cottage industry of motels and restaurants blossomed throughout North America. The personal automobile empowers the individual, and authoritarians, of course, want to take that empowerment away. Statists with a twisted vision of utopia got a taste of the world they want to see during the lockdowns the last few years, and they want more of it. And what happened? Well, mobility disappeared while dependence on the state increased. Tourism evaporated while social structures fell apart. The other thing authoritarians noted was how the personal automobile can facilitate citizen actions and protests. The Freedom Convoy sure never would have happened if people didn't have personal transportation, would it? Those who want to end individualism for a socialized state also realize just how docile and pliable most citizens can be if they're convinced of a public emergency. So putting that all together, authoritarian collectivists have realized more than ever they won't be able to achieve their envisioned utopia as long as individuals retain personal automobiles, or speech or firearms for that matter, but that's fodder for another rant. The public emergency they're pushing is ostensibly climate change, and the latest tool they plan to use is the 15-minute city. Now, the 15-minute city goes by many other names, but the policies are always the same. Auto owners are punished through taxes, while auto infrastructure and roads are constantly removed. Look at those bike lanes created in zones without any bicycle demand. Well, the intention was to snarl automotive traffic, not to facilitate bikes. They know nobody's going to ride them. New high-density developments are being designed without parking. Well, they're starting to charge people for parking on the streets in front of their own homes. This is happening. In cities such as Oxford in the UK, they're imposing a program where a person will be fined if their vehicle enters the wrong zone or leaves its own zone too many times. Permits will be issued by the state if an auto owner wants to travel to certain areas. Now, people keep fleeing further from city centers, while municipal politicians expand their metro regional plans to try and enforce city limits outside of the city limits. It's a whack-a-mole game going on. And the war is on. And while free individuals will be the ultimate victims, they always are, the target is the personal automobile that empowers them. Citizens need to realize just how much they stand to lose if they no longer have that freedom to travel wherever they like at will with a personal automobile. They need to start paying attention to local politics and start firing the mayors and councils who are pursuing this war on cars. It's a subtle and incremental war, but it's a war nonetheless. And unless folks wake up soon, you're going to lose that war, guys. You can't afford to lose your cars. It's much more important than just a little convenience.
Canadian Shooting Sports Association. Without the CSSA, our gun rights would have been taken long ago. These guys are on the front lines helping to draft smart and intelligent firearms regulations and legislation in Canada, and more importantly, educating the public about how we keep guns out of the hands of the wrong people. You become a member, it's absolutely worth every penny. You can become a Western Standard member for just $10 a month. or $99 a year for unlimited access